everyone. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I'm a sleep consultant at Helping Babies Sleep. I have 2 kids and I have 8 years of healthcare experience. And today on this Facebook Live, I'd like to talk to you about 10 ways to help your newborn sleep. So having a newborn is a totally amazing, fantastic, and life-changing experience. There's awe, there's wonder, and then there's the, oh my gosh, what the heck am I doing? Where is this going? Am I doing this right? The self-doubt that starts to kick in. Today I want to talk to you about 10 tips that can help you get your newborn sleeping. And by newborn, I'm referring to the ages 0 to 3 months. Because here's a secret. How we start out with our kids is actually how we're training them to fall asleep. So for example, as a sleep consultant, I deal with many parents who have challenges because now they're stuck nursing their child to sleep. And so when she wakes up, every few hours through the night, they have to be consistently nursed back to sleep. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no one way to live your life, but it can get really tiring and exhausting for parents, and it can cut into your child's overall nighttime sleep if the sleep is very fractured. So the first thing you need to know as a new parent or as a newborn is that babies don't just fall asleep on their own. Crazy, right? You know, those first few weeks, they just eat and then fall right back asleep. So we're kind of conditioned to think, hey, this is going to be okay. This is all going to be really easy. But then they start to wake up a little bit more to the world and they start gaining weight. And then it's your job to decide when nap time and sleep time is. And here's something you should know. If you're taking notes, you got to write this down. Babies 0 to 2 months of age really can't stay awake longer than 45 minutes to an hour. And in the morning when they wake up for the day, that first awake time is always going to be the shortest from now until toddlerhood. So they may just eat and then fall right back asleep. Or they may have 10 or 15 minutes after that feed and then be putting them down for sleep again. By 3 months, that maximum awake time changes to about 1.5 hours. So again, you can see that there's this constant cycle of getting up, eating, and falling back to, and being put back to sleep. That's the number one reason that parents fail, is keeping their babies up too long. I was a prime failure, if you will, in those newborn days. We didn't know what we were doing, and we used to keep our child up, especially at night, thinking that he would then be so tired he would sleep better at night, which is the exact opposite. Kind of counterintuitive, but the truth is that sleep begets sleep, and the more well-rested your child, the easier it will be to put him to sleep and then have him stay asleep. So again, think about those awake times. And I'm going to provide a link in the notes for you to download an awake time chart that I have that shows you how long that awake time should be, how many naps your child should be having by age, and their overall 24 hours of sleep, because that's the best objective measure that we have to gauge how well rested they are. So tip number 3 then is swaddling. Swaddling is the bomb. And I talk to lots of parents who say, my child really hates to be swaddled. Well, in those newborn stages, when you're trying to swaddle, perhaps you're trying it too late. Perhaps anything that you tried at that point your child would absolutely hate. And remember that you are in charge of their health and well-being. So it's your job to keep trying some things that may have not gone well in the past and see if they work again. And swaddling is one of those things because it recreates the conditions that they had in the womb. It controls their moral reflex, and it's really, really beneficial to helping your child sleep longer and settle more easily. I personally love the Miracle Blanket. It pins their arms down to their side, but there are many swaddles on there. I would suggest buying one that you can use to wean your child from. So one that would let you have one arm out at one point would be helpful. So things like the Halo Swaddle, the Miracle Blanket, those are all great. The Love to Dream, which keeps both arms up like that, I'm not as much of a fan because it is harder to wean them from that. They do have the ones that zip off on the arm that can be helpful, but I don't feel like it gives them that really tight sense of security. It's more like a sleep sack, if you will. And sleep sacks are amazing, and I love those for 4 months plus, but that's another Facebook Live. My 4th tip is to learn what your baby's cries mean. So there's this amazing Australian opera singer who developed the Dunstan baby language, www.dunstanbaby.com. And I'll provide a link to that in the show notes afterwards. And basically, she's distinguished that certain cries have certain meaning. And she has 5 to 6 sounds. And really, you only have to manage or master 3 of them. The cry that means I'm tired, the cry that means I'm hungry, and the cry that means I have gas. And if you can manage those can be super helpful at figuring out what's bugging your child. Because often what happens, and this is what I did, is when my child cried, I didn't know any other way. I had no other parenting skills other than breastfeeding. And so I would offer the breast, and of course that he would take it right away. And so what I ended up doing is teaching him that the boob is a soother, and that when he's tired or fussy or has gas, that the boob, placates those feelings. So the Dunstan baby language is a great way to add another set of tools to your parenting toolbox to try and figure out what's bugging your child. Because sometimes being a parent is kind of like being a veterinarian, right? You don't have words, you're just trying to figure out by signs and body language. The next tip number 5 is start as you plan to continue. So kind of like I mentioned at the beginning, is that we unknowingly train our children how to fall asleep in those first few weeks. So that's fine if you want to deal with sleep training later on, or you have, infinite patience. But one thing is, if you have to be rocking them or bouncing them from the very beginning, or if you teach them like I did, like the boob is a soother, they'll expect that as time goes. And it's not such a big deal until about 4 months, when that 4-month sleep regression hits and your child starts waking up more frequently at night and is more aware of your world. Then you'll have to be offering that breast or that bouncing and all those night wakings to help your child get back to sleep. So start as you plan to continue. Number 6, start trying to feed your baby on wake up rather than put down. So this is that easy schedule you may have heard of. It means eat, activity, sleep, and the Y stands for you time, like mom time. So the idea is that you're feeding on wake up rather than on put down. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to feed them every time they wake up. It's just that you're trying to disassociate the feeding upon sleeping, and using your other parenting tools to help your child fall asleep in those early days to set you up for continued sleep success down the road. Number 7, be an observer. It is instinctual for us to want to stop our child's cries, but if we can stay calm and sit back and watch those cries and the body language and look at the clock and try and figure out, why is my child crying? And use your parenting toolbox rather than just like nursing to sleep, to try and figure out what's bugging your child. So be an observer. And one of the most common challenges as new parents is giving something new the chance to work. For example, I remember, this was my second child, so I'd already sleep trained my son, I had all these great sleep strategies. With my second came along, I was like, I am not going to fall into the trap that we fell into with nursing to sleep and using the boob as a soother that we did with my son. So when my second came around, we used the swing a lot, especially in the evening during that witching period. I would swaddle her and put her in the swing and sit right in front of her. And on her, maybe her 3rd night or 4th night of being at home, being alive, I was like, okay, we'll put her in the swing, we'll make this work. This is what it is. She's fussy, it's like 9:30, it's that witching period, she just needs help. Now she's just overtired, she's been awake too long. So I put her in there, and she didn't stop crying. And I wanted to stop those cries, because doesn't make me feel good. I want to help her. I said, no, just put my timer on. I'm going to give this 5 minutes to work. At 4.5 minutes, she settled into sleep, and she slept for hours. But it was a really great reminder that you have to give something new the chance to work, because 5 minutes can seem like an eternity. So use your timer and give something new the chance to work. And don't be afraid to revisit that technique or something new that you tried but didn't work at one time, because trying it at a different time of day or when she's a little bit older can yield different or new results for you. Don't give up. Number 8, the clock is your friend. So again, remember, 2 reasons. One is those awake times, right? That your newborn really can't comfortably stay awake for more than an hour to an hour and a half at the very most. And 2, to time yourself, to give something new that chance to be working. Number 9, tip number 9 is to get the gas out. So there's a theory out there that if your child has burps that don't pass during the day, that they travel down the intestine and they become toots that need to be relieved. So get the gas out. Really focus on burping if you're breastfeeding, after each side, after each bottle, and throughout the day. And then we always used to do like 1 burping lap before we laid her down for any nap or bedtime, just to make sure that they were gone, because sometimes burps can be elusive. You may think that you have them all, and then you don't. Number 10, distinguish between night and day. And this is all about just setting up that little bedtime routine that lets her know that it's sleep time. And that that bedtime routine can look the same as nap time, except that at bedtime you change the pajamas. So it's one more cue that night is coming. I often hear people say, oh, my baby has their nights and their days confused. And the drive to sleep is the strongest at night. You've got, different hormones acting. So when I hear that, what I think is happening is that your child something's bothering her through the night. She's probably got gas or the need to burp. And if you're breastfeeding, I would think back to 6 to 8 hours earlier. What did I eat? What did I eat that could be bothering her? My daughter had silent reflux, and I remember one night when I had a Diet Coke at 7 p.m. and she was up fussy between 2 and 3 in the morning because it just didn't sit well with her. That was the last Diet Coke that I had while we were breastfeeding. Another one for me was, I like candy. Terrible, but I love it. And after a long day of parenting, I really, really wanted something to look forward to, and often that was like a handful of Bridge Mix. Those chocolate-covered almonds or chocolate-covered jujubes. I love that stuff. But I couldn't eat it with my daughter because it made her gassy and fussy, and so that too had to go. Parenting can be so depriving, can't it? Sleep and all the things that you love. So in summary, I just want to say, if you've got a newborn during those 0 to 3 months, don't be too hard on yourself. Sleep issues can always be fixed down the road, okay? Sometimes you're in survival mode and you do what you have to do, and that's totally awesome. There's more than one way to raise your child. If, you have to go back to work early or you want to get working on sleep quickly, focus on the things that I mentioned here today. Awake times, feeding on wake up rather than put down, using the skills in your parenting toolbox rather than just feeding to get your child to sleep. Okay, that brings us to the end of everything that I wanted to say today. In the show notes or in the comments, I'm going to put a few things down for you. I'm going to put a link to download that awake time chart that tells you about how much sleep your child needs in 24 hours, how many naps, the number of hours of naps, and the awake time. And I'm also going to put a download out for a cheat sheet for the top 10 tips that I discussed today, so you can download those and stick them on your fridge as a good reminder. And lastly, in case you didn't know, I also moderate a free Ask the Expert sleep group, and I will provide a link to that. In that, I come on, a few times a day, and I answer general questions about sleep. I do not answer the question, how to sleep train my child, because when I work with parents one-on-one, I provide a 20-page plan, because sleep training is more than just bedtime put down, it's a whole 24-hour plan. So I do not answer that question on the group because I just feel that it would be too irresponsible of me, but I'm really happy to answer any general questions that you have about sleep. Thanks for watching.